Why the change?
A few different reasons, and one of them was actually the first podcast that I did with yourself. Mind Matters came from the passion project I have around education, and the reason it was Mind Matters was the message with that being to install the belief in our children that they matter and their minds are amazing things before we start entering into mental health awareness territory. So that's where Mind Matters came from, and I liked the alliteration as being quite catchy. And as a lot of my lessons with this so far have been, I initially went at this with like a bull in a china shop, and there was probably quite a lot of personal emotion attached to whatever I was doing. I went with it. And then when we had our first conversation, and you touched on, you actually, I don't know if you remember, but you went mental well-being, mind well-being, and you went, I like that. And I was sat here going, I like that. And actually, when I came to look at it from the bigger picture of if the campaign side of this is striving to actually have the language changed, then are we really going to change mental health to mind matters? Probably not. Whereas when I went changing mental health to mind well-being, I can feel and sense that that could be a thing. Also, when I was doing my research, because part of what I'm doing is getting people to carry out surveys and complete surveys to back up my research and what I'm saying. When people think of the word mind, the biggest word that they associate with the word mind is well-being. So that then double confirmed it for me. And then I was doing some meditation one evening, and although I find it quite challenging, I know it's good for me and I can see me getting better at it. But I was sat there going, what am I trying to do here? And I'm trying to get my mind to just be happy being, like to just be separate from the noise in there, to be able to like not get bought into the chatter. So that kind of brought me to a healthy mind, and probably where we probably need to be driving to collectively is trying to nurture our minds to be well at just being. And that's what we need more of. So yeah, that's where the change came from. So the mind well-being into schools. So I'm still keeping my schoolwork as being Mind Matters for Key Stage 1 and 2, because the alliteration for them is easy and sticks with them. They like it. But a Mind Wellbeing School, which I have one fully piloted now, is one that 100% buys into the ethos, and it's a whole school approach. So I go in and deliver training to the staff primarily on the message of what mind well-being is, and how important our language is, how a lot of the challenges we're seeing with our children that we're probably misinterpreting as there being something wrong, or how we can understand behaviours better, and actually could we resolve a lot of that by fundamentally educating our children on how to recognise, control their emotions, know how they turn into thoughts, and be able to self-soothe and self-control. Once I've done that with the staff, then I go in and deliver it with the children. It's not just, it is interactive workshops, but once the school take the approach, it's also visuals all around the school. So there's that constant reminder. And the school then bookends the day, as a lot of the coaching modalities teach adults to now. So they start the day with something I've developed called a connecting affirmation. So some research I did into children doing affirmations was, yes, it has a great impact on the kids. But if you've got a school where 3 children are doing affirmations at home and the rest of them aren't, then you have 3 kids in a class who actually have quite an inflated sense of self compared to the others. So I've developed something called a connecting affirmation, which uses sound, touch, and visual. And you go round your hand, and not only are you affirming something for yourself, you're affirming something for the person next to you as well, and then collectively. So it's like bringing the whole class together with positive affirmations. So that starts the day. And then the end of the day, depending what level they're at, but at Key Stage 1, we just have 2 screens, one being things that may have brought me joy today. There's options for them to pick from, and they would just click on one, and then the wording would turn to a happy or one of my emotion faces. And then the second one would be things I could be grateful for today, and it's the same exercise. Once we've got that embedded into the class, which then there's visuals left in the classroom, there's worksheets left that they can carry on taking and undertaking whilst I'm not present. Then I deliver staff to training to the parents, which fundamentally was the piece I was most nervous about. Mm-hmm. And the first school I did it in, the headmaster actually said, "Good luck in getting the presence of parents in to an assembly." Now, I did it 2 ways. I did an assembly and then an evening webinar for parents who were at work. And the reason she'd said that is because she said since COVID, we've noticed a big difference in parent and
engagement.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Parent engagement in school activities. But so when I got a really good turnout, she was like stood at the door like, "What have you actually said you're doing here?" Because all of a sudden you've got all these people here. And I was nervous because I didn't want anything that I was going to be saying to come across as condescending or like you were telling them how to parent or that we're doing something wrong. So I was very nervous. But it actually went down a storm and they loved it. And they were like, "This is exactly what our children need, but it's exactly what I need. I want you to come and teach me some of this stuff." And I think that reaffirmed to me how, even as adults, just through habit and of how busy we are and what society expects nowadays, we've just got into poor ways of communicating with one another, be it in a rush or whatever it might be. So it's gone really, really well. Off the back of it, even on the parent assemblies, people were coming up and, I had 2 mental health nurses coming up and saying, "I don't want to be a mental health nurse anymore. I want to be a Mind Wellbeing nurse." And then I have 2 of my volunteers for my campaign. Wow. And then had families actually asking, could I go into their homes and deliver some of the workshops to get them, embracing it as a family, which I'm starting next week.
So embracing, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
It sounds fantastic. So what is it you're delivering?
So to the Key Stage 1 and 2s, it's all around a character called Wonderful.
Oh, Wonderful.
And he's a little character, no, he's a big, strong character. And he's filled with bubbles of emotion. And so Wonderful wonders about the emotions that fill him. And that's how the story starts. And so it's then getting the children to be aware of what emotions are, how to identify them, how they might show up in the body. Then we go on to waves of wonder, and that's understanding how that emotions are simply energy in motion. And so if we can recognise them as that, then we know that we can move it at any given time that we want to. If we can acknowledge what it is and where it is, we can shift it. And teaching them concepts of being able to do that. Be it, as an example, we'll do an exercise with Taylor Swift, Shake It Off. And Wonderful will be there, grey and down, and all his emotion bubbles are all sad, and then Shake It Off comes on and we all get up and shake it off. And then everyone's happy and you notice that the energy has moved. And then we'll do that through breathing exercises. And then we move on to the wonders of our words. And that is all about how the importance of using kind words. And we talk about the fact that your brain actually doesn't know when you're talking, if you're talking about someone else or if you're talking about yourself. And if we always have that in mind, then you would always choose to either not talk about something negative or to only use kind words, so that you are reaffirming a belief for yourself that of positivity, not negativity.
What's my brain doing?
Your brain doesn't process, so naturally your brain doesn't process a negative. It doesn't know how to. But so if you were constantly surrounded by negative people, which is why they then say that you actually become the sum of the 5 people you spend your most time with. If you were constantly surrounded by negative people you had a negative opinion of, you would be that person, because your brain doesn't know if if you're surrounded by them, that's all you see. So, and I mean, this is getting a bit deeper than Mind Matters School, but then it's getting into that everything's actually a reflection. And that's where it comes. But I think from the Key Stage 1 point of view, it's teaching them the importance of kind words and speaking kindly to one another, but also using the correct language. So never associating yourself with your feelings. So it's never I am, because the more you say I am, even if it was saying I am happy, if you said that all day, every day, and your brain then thinks that's what you are, that's who you are. So then if you don't feel that way, it's a real, well, I don't feel what I am, what you've told me I am. So it reacts in a certain way. But also if you say I am anxious, then as soon as it's like your body believes that that's what you are, when the truth is none of us are our feelings. They're just temporary states based on experiences that we're having or have had, or that remind of us an experience that we've had. So it's about getting really early them naturally to use that language. So not I am, but I feel, and not are you okay, but how are you feeling, as being big ones for them to and that with the parents we introduce that as being mindful in the house as to the language you're using, and then the next bit is Wonderful's wonderful mind, and that's educating them on basic neuroscience as to what is happening in the brain when you're feeling your feelings. And the more you feel a feeling, what then starts to get hardwired in your brain as being the message around it, and techniques to get from your feely brain, which is your amygdala, to then your thinky brain, which is your prefrontal cortex. Because whilst ever you're here, you're not thinking. And I fundamentally believe if I'd have had this in school, my path would have been completely different in how I related to myself, and then how I chose to relate with other people, and how I chose to behave. And I think I would have had a much, much stronger sense of self at an earlier age. So that's where it's come from. The ones I'm going in to do with families are then a bit of a mix of what I'm delivering in schools. But with some of the older children, it's taking it to the next step. So there's things such as getting them into their zone of learning. So, which I think, why aren't we all taught this at school? Where, and it's got a bit of a spiritual connotation as well. But if you do an exercise where you concentrate and look up as if you're in the middle of your head for a certain period of time and do a breathing technique, you engage your zone of learning, and you'll feel a whole sense of calm, and you'll be able to think and start taking in information. And there's a whole study behind it, and the doctor who actually came up with it, which I loved, said, if you want to exasperate this, then if the person who's delivering the instruction is wearing purple, it accentuates it. Now, purple is the colour of the third eye chakra, which is here, which is where you're looking. So for me, it all like links into a bigger thing, but it does work. And there's also, for overthinking and anxiety, an exercise around, if you try and concentrate on the back of your head at any given time, you'll notice you can't really think. The thoughts go away. If you try and get to the back of your mind, anything you're thinking kind of disappears. So a really nice technique to quieten the mind. And that's part of a transitional pack that I'm doing for a girl going from primary to secondary or junior to secondary school, to help with anxiety and things. It's funny, isn't it?
So what's the third eye chakra? Very briefly.
So your third eye chakra is so do you know, are you familiar with the whole chakra energy?
Not as familiar as you might like me to be.
Yeah.
But I'm just interested because you said it. The only reason I'm asking is because we've chosen purple as the backdrop for the writing. So I just want to know how innately and instinctively awesome I might be.
That's incredible. I'm going to say it's completely meant to be, and you are without knowing it. So your third eye chakra is like the goal of thinking. Okay. So if your other energy centres are aligned, which you do come across to me as being quite an aligned, peaceful character, then I would imagine that would be correct. So so it starts at your root chakra. So if you fundamentally don't feel safe as a human being, then you're operating from your root chakra, and your energy is going into survival. And you work your way through the chakras. So it goes from survival to, my energy is not focused on survival anymore, so I'm able to create. I'm able to do something else. And then that works its way up to the heart chakra. And if you are surviving and you're okay, you're also able to create, so you have a sense of individuality, then your heart chakra can open and you can fundamentally love someone else because you have a certain element of that for yourself. And then it works its way up to the throat chakra. So if you communicate authentically and what you're saying is actually what's going on inside, then predominantly you'll have a clear throat chakra. And if all them are all nicely aligned, then you work your way up to your third eye chakra and your crown chakra, which then means that you are operating and thinking in more of a higher self perspective. So you're not thinking just for self, because yourself is aligned and good, and you're able to think from a much higher, not emotional, but considered, relaxed place. And that's like meant to be the level of higher consciousness, and that goes into like a whole other...
Is the third eye chakra and the crown chakra two different things?
Yes.
What colour is the crown one?
So crown,
That's
we've tested me here.
That's what I need to be at.
I think that's...
For the next goal.
Blue. I think is it blue? See, I'm way away from it yet.
So is it hierarchical? I know we're going slightly off topic, but is it hierarchical? Like, as in, can the throat one work just dandy, but you're still a bit of a mess in your tummy?
Yeah, it's not. You don't have to be.
Sort one out before the next.
Ideally, you're sorting one out before the next. Now, in reality, you can be. So I know I can speak openly, and I know inside it can feel completely authentic in what I believe in, but I know my root chakra is not aligned because I know it's not because I'm feeling insecure or unsafe. So they can be open and closed at all different times, but that's what then drives in a conflict and all them mixed up feelings. Mm-hmm. Whereas if that comes then to like, it all ties down to developmental needs. So all the programs that come, such as Thrive, which I talked about on the first podcast, the colours of the rainbow are the chakra colours, and the developmental bands that they form off the colours of the rainbow. It's all interlinked. But fundamentally, if your root chakra is really unsettled, the likelihood is that you're not going to be talking from your authentic self because everything's going into just wanting to keep you safe. So it's an interesting. It's completely off topic, but it's something I am very interested in. Yeah. So with the children, it's a connecting one. So anything in school is so. It will go as an example, my mind matters, your mind matters, our minds matter. And then it might be, we are brave, we are kind. And they follow it round on the screen. There's a hand with a little brain that does it with them. And then as you go up the key stages, you'd go to a point of just writing it. But again, keeping it as a collective thing, as not just, I am all these things, but I am, you are, we are. And then with parents, it's about mirroring to one another. So if I am, we are, and doing it collectively that way. But encouraging the parents to do it themselves as well. And
a similar sort of affirmation, my mind matters, your mind matters.
Yeah.
Our minds matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to have that kind of expectation at home, after the schools, maybe a little bit unrealistic to take it all the way through to that level, but certainly I am, you are, we are in the home environment, and it does carry on the theme as to doing it collectively and creating that connection. It's just another, even if it's 20 seconds. I think a child needs 20 minutes of connection a day to stay well and to have healthy development with parents. So it's like just an easy way of getting that extra bit.
I like it. Because it's new in my head, I'm wondering whether it feels like, when people say the thing about active listening.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a natural way to do active listening, which is what humans do.
Yeah.
And then there's the, I hear you, I feel you. Then
yes.
you're like, hey man, this isn't what I meant.
No.
Right? But so I was just trying to think, like, how would that look and feel? That it didn't feel like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But then at the same time, I wonder, like, is that better than not doing it at all?
Yeah, I think I think the initial my mind matters, your mind matters, our minds matter. I think as they get a bit old, yes, that's over, that's too much and getting on the verge of, but if they've had a year or 2 years doing that, the neural connections are there. They do fundamentally have the belief that they matter, that their minds matter, that other people's minds matter. That's in. So then you can filter it down to just being a bit more of a laid back. This is just second nature now. Like habit, behaviour, then second nature. Because for me with the children, it's that's fundamental what it's about. It's about positively installing the positive beliefs, rather than the first thing we're doing is making them aware of these mental health issues. And you're like, well, that's not going to work. It's not going to change anything. It's actually going to make things worse. So it's about getting it at the seed level with the good habits. It might feel a little bit cheesy and overkill at the beginning, but then you don't need to do the extra.
How are the teachers responding to it all?
At first, so it was a real interesting hour where I presented to the headmistress and the staff initially, and I could just see the room 100% split down the middle. So I had half the teachers like eyes lit up, love it, and then I'd have the teachers like looking at each other like what's on. And I kind of expected that. And one of the comments that I got was, with this whole changing the term mental health, do you not think that ship sailed? We're too far down the road. And I was like, well, I see your point in the amount of investment that's probably gone into that term. But when Titanic left, if you'd have known before you did that iceberg was there, would you have gone, the ship's on its way, just let it go? Or would you have gone, turn the freaking ship, we can save a lot here? And I think that's where we are. We're at the turn the ship. This label isn't helping. It's making it worse, and everything is showing us that. So once I kind of explained it that way, I did see a couple of faces change, but then certainly there was one particular session where one of the more frownier teachers, when I'd first presented, I could see her buy in. I could see her completely change. And it was a session, it was my first session with one particular class, and I'd already been told about a little boy who was semi-mute and maybe a little bit disruptive, and don't really expect him to engage as such. And he engaged really, really well. And one of the activities that we did at the end of the session was to draw an emotion and say something about it. And he drew every emotion with a full narrative of what makes him experience each emotion, and stood up and said it. And it gives me goosebumps now even talking about it. And the teacher started welling up, trying to set me off, and I had to compose myself. And for me in that moment, I was like, this is worth it. For that one, it was worth it. And it works. Like it was a confirmation for me that this isn't just you've been through a bit of trauma and you've fabricated this idea. It's like, you think you're going to, it's, it works. And, the teacher said she was just grateful because I'd changed her perspective of that child just in that one session. So, yeah, I think although it was a mixed, and again, I think the headmistress was dubious up until the point of the parent assembly.
How did you get in the room?
Well, I went round a few schools with just let me speak to you for half an hour. And the school that I did the pilot schooling was actually the school that my little boy goes to. So that's how I think, got in there. And now it's a case of the next hurdle is, funding around it. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned in terms of starting up a business is it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think initially I went in with all this kind of like personal emotion. I was expecting like this huge change straight away, and that's not how any of it works. But then from a research point of view, there's the frustration as to, with something like this, you can't apply for a lot of grants because to go into schools, there's the conflict of, well, a school or the government or local authority should be paying for that. It shouldn't be coming from a charitable grant. So you get stuck between a little bit of a rock and a hard place. However, I've had meetings with other schools, which have all said, some have said, really, really want it, and I'm waiting to hear back from them in September. Some have said, really, really want it, we don't have the budget for it. And I had a meeting with the council this week to talk about that. And so what I'm doing to try and raise some awareness in that regard is I've prepared letters for local politicians, and then in October I'm climbing the Yorkshire Three Peaks with about 15 other people. I'm going to crowdfund, and whatever money I raise, I'll be able to then go into certainly some of the more, underprivileged schools in the area and deliver it for free to get round that. But it's sad because it's something that's so needed, and that's all I hear. This is so needed. It's amazing. From all the parents, from the kids even, and now then from the teachers, and anyone I speak to about it. But there doesn't seem to be the allocation of the money for it as of yet. But hopefully we'll change that.
So the funding is the next step on your journey?
Yeah.
Funding is the next step on your journey to spread out to more and more schools?
Yeah.
And what about the other branch, the campaigning side?
So for the campaign side of things, I'm going to things like festivals, anywhere really where I can get a stand and, spread my message. So a couple of weeks ago I was at Doncaster Pride. So I had a stand in their wellness tent. I then spoke for half an hour at the event about it, and then from that just trying to get as many survey results and petition signatures as I can. I've got 5 people now volunteering for me, doing bits and pieces. So I've just made a load of crystal bracelets that I'm going to be selling that say Mind Wellbeing and Mind Matters on them. So there'll be like merchandise that you can buy on my website, and that will all be taken to events to sell. And so that's what I'm doing to kind of raise the message of the campaign wherever I can. And then when I'm working in the schools, it's a case of then politely asking the teachers I come across, the parents I come across, will you undertake my survey? If you're passionate about what I've done, then sign the petition, etc., and try and get it to snowball that way.
The need for wellness to be mandated in a similar way to health and safety. It just seems so obvious.
Yeah.
But the flip side is, like, if they don't, they being whoever the institution is, whether it's employers or schools or wherever, if they don't have the funding to do what they're already doing, how are they going to, where they're expected to drum up the funding to do this new part?
I think the thing with that, and the message I need to get across clearly with that, is it's the most important thing.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
If you actually want performance.
Yeah.
This is part of that success.
Yeah. And if you went with this, then the money you're investing in the requirement of one-to-ones to be sat with individuals in classrooms, the requirement for all these additional what's classed as special needs, I guarantee you would filter off. I'm not saying they would 100%, but it would make a massive impact. Whilst I've been testing, I've been doing some one-on-one work with individuals. And one of the little boys I've been working with, he's 7 years old, never slept through the night, suffers quite badly with IBS, and had real high-level anger tantrums, which with him getting bigger, were getting even harder to control. And he couldn't self-regulate at all and bring himself out of it. And so they could go on for quite a long time. And I have done 5 sessions with him so far. And he's sleeping through the night. Very rarely got an upset tummy. And although he does have some outbursts still, you know, arguably you say, well, every child does. You're never going to get to the point where he never feels angry, but he is able to self-regulate and use the strategies a lot more to bring himself in.
Do you use this magic on your own kids? Does it work on your own kids? Is this for some reason I can do it on everyone else's kids, but you?
It does work on. No, I think it does work on your own kids. I think as long as where I've found it more difficult with my own, with Ted Bear, is his time split between me and another household. So it's harder to get that consistency of expectation of this is what we do. We do it every day. Although I can definitely still see him taking it on, I think that side of it makes it more difficult. But one of the things I'm thinking about is delivering it as like an online course to parents, because it's not, I'm not special. This isn't like something I'm not Mary Poppins, it's something, they're just strategies that I've learned for myself and gone, why wasn't I told this as a child? And that's where it's all stemmed from. So it's really simple and literally boggles my mind that it's not already done.
So when you talk about families, so you don't currently deliver this online. You do it all in person.
Yeah, because I've been in very much a testing phase.
Gotcha. If a family wants you to visit them, we can delete this bit if you don't want to talk about it. But how much does it cost?
Well, I've been doing it on £70 per session, and 6 sessions, for the 2 that I've done for so far. But like I say, it's been
a lot of, I don't know if this is true or this is just in my head, but a lot of behavioural issues in children stem from their intimate community, right? So their little home life.
Yeah.
Obviously, they can have issues when they go to school and there's like bullying and all the rest of it. But if their intimate home life is crazy, I need a better word for that. But
chaotic.
If their intimate home life is chaotic and you've got your 7 sessions, will that just make them stronger within that chaos?
Yes, and for me, that's a massive key to it, because where it's been disjointed before and where I had the frustration when I was training was that, so we were delivering training to children who had 100% been through trauma, and we were doing it on a reparative way. We were then trying to get the parents engaged and come to like a family training session. Now, in that instance, the parents weren't engaging because one, they didn't want to admit to certain things, and then to be sat in a room with another parent, it's not going to happen or work. Whereas going into someone's home their comfort place, or it be able to be online and no one really knows you're doing it. You know, it eliminates that.
They've already invited you into, so they've already, to an extent, bought into the whole super nanny thing. Yeah,
and then delivering it to everyone. Firstly, it eliminates any shame from the child who you think might need it more, as to their having to go to some kind of like counselling thing. So it takes that away. And generally, like you've said, them kind of behaviour is communication. Fundamentally, that's what it is. And so for a child, it's, I haven't got the capabilities yet to deliver this in words properly. So you're going to see it in another way. And so if it's communication, it is something within the unit, you know, that's causing that behaviour. Again, it's not that anyone's done anything wrong. This happens in every family, every household to a degree. And I think everyone should know about it. I really, really do. I think it could help improve even the most safe, not chaotic, stable households could still get benefit from it. Because unless it's one of those things, isn't it? Unless it's broken, don't fix it. So as an adult, if you feel like you're functioning absolutely fine, you meet all societal expectations, your communication style and everything gets you by, why would you ever question it? You're never going to look for any of this stuff because you don't need it. So, however, how we've been brought up, we have been taught not the best ways of communicating. We live in a very stressed, high expectation, super busy world, which causes that to be even more broken. But again, you don't look into it because, we're all the same. Everyone's that way. So
that's why burnout is so hard to spot.
Yeah.
Because you're measuring yourself against the next guy. Well, the next guy's also exhausted, stressed, doing his day on 5 cups of coffee. So you're like, well, I guess this is normal, and then snap.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see the signs. Really? Compare yourself to an Aboriginal. Those were the signs, mate.
Yeah, exactly, which we don't do. Yeah. And this is hardwired stuff, so it takes practice. And I do think even reading an article on something and going, oh yeah, I need to take note of that, I need to change something, or reading an article on burnout, or whatever it might be, chances of your behaviour actually changing from reading that one slim, not impossible, but slim. Whereas if you've got some training that is not only going to benefit yourself, but your whole family, may even improve spouse relationship, then, and it's delivered over a certain period of time. So you have got that constant, plus you have to then hold each other accountable, because as the parent, you want to then set the example for the child that what the child's doing, you're doing, and you've got a higher chance of making those changes. And I think then if the parents saw the changes, because the changes would be more present in the children before the adults, because their brains are softer and more susceptible to it. So I think if the parents then saw an improvement in the kids, then that would encourage them to maintain it as well. And it's just the ripple, isn't it? Then you do make some impact. But that's why I was so passionate about making it a whole school thing, incorporating the adults and the parents, should I say. because again, my safe place was school. And so you obviously still go home. And if I was given this training at school, yes, I would have been able to absolutely use the mechanisms at home, but it wouldn't have changed what was going on there. Whereas if they were enveloped in it as well, then there may have been the greater chance for some positive change. But I've been to like cricket with Ted over the summer, and parents have come up to me and said, I have definitely this week not said I am, I have said I feel. And, and we've made a bit of a joke about it, but you change in your brain. Mm-hmm. You change in your belief as to that feeling's temporary. So that's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to not feel. You're trying to train yourself that feeling's there. What does that mean? It'll go, start again, reset. Whereas we've built this society where, that feeling's uncomfortable, let's strap it in there, we're fine, carry on. And, that just, it's not healthy. I think then that it snowballs into like a bigger conversation around illness, because I am a believer that a lot of illness and disease is dis-ease. So where are you not at ease within your body to cause these things? I think it'd just have a huge impact if we all knew how to process our emotions better. And through the survey responses I've had so far, the two words that people think of when they think of the word mind is imagination and wonder, which I have been to therapy myself. I've overconsumed copious amounts on Instagram around it, but fundamentally the premise around it is to have a non-biased reflection of yourself that helps you begin to wonder and notice your emotions and thoughts and separate yourself from them, so you can choose something different. And so that's like, well, that's actually not a big deal. It is at 36 when you've not done it for 36 years, but if my child knows how to do that at 5 and it's just his way of being, then wow, what a different future we'd be looking at collectively.